All right. Good morning, everybody. It's Saturday, and this is kind of like an impromptu thing I decided to do this morning. I wanted to interview a gentleman who is a firefighter in Indianapolis, and he agreed to do this interview. Although he may be called to go out on a run, he still agreed to do this interview this morning, like really fast. So we'll see how it goes. Um, so I'm gonna invite him, and then once he comes on, we can get started. So okay, so he's on. All right, all right. So I'm gonna bring you on camera, and then we'll get started. All right. Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Hey. All right, so I just kind of did an intro.
Mhm.
I want everyone to know that you are a 14-year veteran firefighter in Indianapolis, correct? Is it Indiana or Indianapolis? Is that the same
Indianapolis,
thing?
Indiana. Hmm.
Okay. Um, and you are a Christian man.
Hmm.
Um, you've been mentoring the youth
Hmm.
through, I guess, weightlifting and is it personal training? I'm trying to
Uh,
look at my
yeah,
notes here. Okay,
personal
all right.
training, pretty much any avenue, I guess, that I can. So either
Okay.
through the job or personal training or, the weightlifting. Yeah,
Okay. And you love to travel.
I do. I do.
Yeah. So tell us about your traveling a little bit if you want.
Well, I do a lot of traveling, actually somewhat through powerlifting, and the job or the two combined. Every couple years they have the World Police and Fire Games, and it's usually somewhere a different part of the world every 2 years. So I try to make
Okay.
it to as many of those as I can, and then my powerlifting, I travel a lot through that too. Competitions, usually none of those are international. They usually are here in the U.S., but
Mhm.
um, either through leisure or through the World Police and Fire Games, I do travel internationally too. So when I travel, I love to experience the place that I'm in. Kind of hate to take the touristic path. I like to kind of go and experience the place that I'm in. I feel like people are more rounded when they experience as many different cultures and different ways of doing things as they can. So
Okay.
yeah.
So was it always your desire to be a fireman? Like, at what age did you decide that's what you wanted to
Oh,
do?
wow. I can't even remember that age. Shoot. I think we were still using rotary dial phones back then, if that gives you an
Mhm.
idea. But
Okay.
I think, yeah, I've always wanted to, probably since I was about maybe 7 or 8 or something like that. It was kind of one of those deals where in during hot summers, firefighters would come out and they needed to flush the hydrants, but they would also let us play in the water. So it's hot,
Okay.
they would open up the fire hydrants and let all the water out, and we would play in the water, and they'd sit there and play with us sometime. And it just kind of stuck in my head, like, man, these guys are pretty cool. I bet this would probably be something fun to do, when I grow up. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that desire to be on the other side of things never went away. And then as I got old enough and learned more about the job, I was like, well, I think this job kind of ties physical ability and intellect together. You have to have both of them for the job. And I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was a perfect fit for me, so I tried. I think I started trying in 98 and
Mm-hmm.
acting on, many different, firefighter processes across the state, the suburbs and the city that I was living in. And it wasn't until I moved to Indianapolis, that I was able to actually get on, and it's been a blast ever since. It's been everything I thought it would be, and way way more.
Oh, okay. All right. So how was it when you went on your, I guess you got a call, your first call, you're a fireman. What did it feel like? Did you have your adrenaline rushing? Was you like nervous? What did it feel like?
Well, we do pretty much any emergency, I guess, that you can get, a person can get themselves into. We're trained for that. So it's not just
Okay.
fire. So my first actual run was an EMS run, and it was a car accident. And it was a bad
Mm-hmm.
one. And you don't really come out of that civilian mindset right away. So I just
Mm-hmm.
remember standing, on the civilian side of the yellow tape, that, the police
Mm-hmm.
put up. And I'm just kind of watching everything like I was a civilian,
Mm-hmm.
And then it dawned on me, like, oh wow, I'm actually supposed to be on the other side. And then I think that's kind of when it hits you where you're like, okay, well, this is real. These
Right.
people are dependent on me. Everybody's watching me and expecting certain things out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I remember as far as my first EMS run is just kind of getting into the mindset where I'm like, wow, I have to actually put everything that I've been taught to use now,
Right.
and
Right.
somebody's safety or life is actually dependent on that. So
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely like a wake up call for me. And my first
Okay.
fire, yes, your adrenaline is through the roof, your heart
Okay.
rate is through the roof.
Right.
There's
Mm-hmm.
the unknown. You just don't know what you're gonna get, once you get inside that structure
Mm-hmm.
that's burning. So yeah, I was excited. I wasn't scared. I was really excited. This is what I had been waiting for the whole time. But at the
Okay.
same time, there's so many unknown variables. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. And with that being like my first, fire, there's a lot that I was trained on, but a lot of that training goes out the window once you get
Mm-hmm.
there.
Okay.
Once you get there, it's pretty much all about experience. So I
Right.
basically
Right.
kind of latched in or kind of latched, or attached myself to my officer who was more, experienced or whatever. And we went in there, we put it out, we worked hard or whatever. And it was the most exhilarating and exhausting experience I had ever had in my life.
Mm.
And of course, with each fire, you don't get as excited. I mean, 14 years in now,
Mm-hmm.
you still get excited, but not as excited. You know what I mean? It's like, and you
Okay.
still don't know what you're going to get into when you get in there.
Exactly.
But I have a lot more experience now, so it's kind of strange because
Mm-hmm.
now I'm that guy that's taking younger guys in there. Their
Right. Right.
experience and the jitters and all of that stuff, and it's kind of funny being on the other side of on the other side of things now. So yeah.
So, I got one response from Gwen, my sister. She says, "God bless you for your services, first responder." I want to talk about a time when you went to a scene and you were, I know you told me you were surrounded by flames. Can you talk about that and, the whole process of what you did to get out of the situation?
Yeah. Um, so there's a what they call a phenomenon that's called flashover,
Okay.
which is uh, typically if you're in one of those, you don't really make it out. It's a
Mhm.
you try to do everything you can to prevent um, your environment from reaching that point, but a lot of times you're not in control, of that. So it's also important to to be able to recognize when it's approaching that point because once you're there, you're there. And basically, flashover is the point where everything in the room that you're in or the environment that you're in reaches its ignition point. So
Okay.
basically, anything that can burn spontaneously and instantly will burn all at the same
Okay.
time.
Mhm.
Chairs, lamps, the ceiling, the walls, the air, um, everything, everything, you know. And we were basically reaching that point um, where it was that hot. And I can remember the air in my mask begin to, it was so hot to begin to be very uncomfortable breathing in. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much when you know, okay, time to get up out of here.
Mhm.
Again, I was newer on the job. I think I had only had about maybe 4 years on the job. And I was with a
Okay.
really good crew. I was with a really good crew. So I was pretty much watching them and trusting them. If they didn't panic, I know that I was okay, you know. But
Mhm.
basically right before it reached flashover, someone bust the window out and fresh oxygen came in and everything
Mhm.
lit up. Everything lit up. So it's kind of hard to describe. It's like um, if there's a lot of fire in a room, you can actually see everything in there. Because if
Mhm.
there's fire there, there's no smoke there. Smoke is on the other side of fire. So
Mhm.
where we were on the side where there's fire, so you can see everything. So 1 minute I could see everybody there that I'm with. I could see what's burning all around me. And then another minute, when someone broke a window and dived out the window, everything went orange. So that's basically how it is. Everything went orange and everything got super, super, super hot. Forced us down to the ground. And I can remember being on the ground, and we had already been throwing water on this fire, so it was water on the ground. And I can
Okay.
remember looking down at the ground and looking at the water on the ground, and I could see the flames, on top of me through the reflection of the water on the ground. And then I
Mhm.
can also see the water on the ground like evaporating. You can see it steaming, and it
Mhm.
hurt. It was very uncomfortable being in the water because it was really, really hot, but it was better than standing up, you know. And
Mhm.
you could see the flames dropping down, dropping down, dropping down. And when they got like right on top of me, where I'm like, okay, this place is pretty much about to, we're approaching flash. We're in flashover. It's really getting ready to get bad and worse in here. I remember thinking to myself, back to my training, back to what guys have already told me, was find that attack line, the fire hose that you brought in there, find
Mhm.
it and follow. If you follow it the right way, you could follow it back outside,
Mhm.
or if you go the opposite way, it'll at least lead you back to the nozzle where I could get the nozzle and I could start knocking this thing off of me. And that's what I did. I wasn't going to leave out because the other guys were still in there. So
Mhm.
I followed the line all the way back up to the nozzle. I found the nozzle and then I was able to start knocking this fire down, off of us. By the
So,
time we Go ahead.
so
Go
at
ahead.
that time when you found the nozzle, the other
Mhm.
guys were they still in the building?
Yeah, we all were still in the building. We were all still in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
And it had got so bad to I wasn't with the original fire company that had that attack line. But it had
Mhm.
got so bad in there to the company that had the attack line bailed out. And that's why I kept
Mhm.
getting worse, worse, worse. Because we're not just waiting in there for it to go away. We're waiting for this other company to knock it off of us. But we didn't know that they bailed out already. So
Mhm.
by the time it got to the point where it's like, it's pretty much now or never. We need to do something. I
Mhm.
followed, found the attack line and I followed it back to the nozzle. Realized there wasn't nobody on it, and started to knock the fire down, off of us. But by that time, we got about half of it knocked down. We really
Mhm.
reduced the temperature in there. The temperature and flashover can reach up to about over 2,000 degrees. So once it gets
Okay.
to that point, nobody's walking out, But by the time we came out of there, we didn't realize that our gear was on fire, our helmets was on fire. We didn't
Wow.
realize just how bad. Yeah, we didn't realize just how bad it was until we actually got out of there. So that was probably it was a learning experience, and it probably was one of the more. It hasn't been a lot of times on a job that I've actually been worried. That was definitely one of them. So,
Mm.
I guess
So,
what I did learn out of it is you can't afford to panic. If you panic,
mhm.
you're done. So, it's not like don't panic because you're tough. It's like don't panic because you want to get out of it. You want to survive, when you're in situations like that. So you can't really afford to panic. But if if you can rely on experience and training, then you won't have to panic. You only panic when you don't have any more solutions to the problem. Then you panic because you don't know what to do. But if you're trained right and if you have the experience, there's no need to panic. You're kind of going through the steps of what it is you need to do, to fix the situation.
so, though your uniform was on fire, are they fireproof? Like
They're
the
not
uniforms?
fireproof. They're heat
Really?
resistant.
Okay.
They're heat
Mm.
resistant. So that means they'll resist heat up into a certain temperature. And
Okay.
right around 800 degrees, it starts to degrade.
Mm.
So once you
S-
reach in 1,000, now you're racing against time now. So
Mm.
yeah,
So,
and at that point,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. So
We have
even
pretty
with,
much passed the. I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead. Finish what you were saying?
I was just gonna say we pretty much passed the point of we had surpassed 800 degrees a long time ago, and that's why our gear began to break down and burn.
Okay.
Mhm.
So even with all this new technology, are you saying they'll never make I guess your uniforms fire resistant?
Well, they have material like that. I don't think they have it for
Mhm.
firefighters, and it could
Okay.
be the cost. The cost is always the bottom line, but I think
Mm-hmm.
also too is making something that we could still. You need to be able to feel some heat because if you don't feel some heat, you don't know how bad it's getting in there. If I can't feel anything, I'm gonna be in there way longer than I should be in there, past the point of no return. So I
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to feel some type of heat, um, have some kind of almost like a thermostat. When
Okay.
it feels a certain kind of way and I'm in my gear, I know, okay, we don't have a lot of time or we got to go.
Okay. So, have you ever been in a situation where you was battling a fire and one of your, I guess, your teammates panicked and you had to save their life?
Um, I've never had to pull another firefighter out of a
Mm-hmm.
fire. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People do panic, absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
and don't necessarily have to save them, but you kind of gotta, look at them and maybe shake them and say, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, get it together or get out."
Mm-hmm.
You could leave if we're going to be a problem. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, so and typically the guys that are panickers normally figure out a way to not be in the thick of things. That's a
Okay.
good way of putting
They
it.
kind of get out the way.
Just like any job, you have your workers and then you have your people that know how to kind of stay out the way.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, so have you ever had to fight a forest fire?
No, and that is a completely different animal, right
Right.
there. So
Mm-hmm.
both of them have their own set of unique dangers. Of course, we have our common danger, which is fire and any other type of
Mm-hmm.
chemical that's produced, from combustion. But forest fires is kind of a thing where they try to stay ahead of it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
fighting it they're not necessarily putting the fire out. They're just trying to
Mm-hmm.
keep the fire from spreading.
Right. Okay.
Whereas us, 9 times out of 10, we're trying to put the fire out. But if
Okay.
a forest fire is something uh, that's if you're in it, you're in it. There's no escape. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas me, if I'm in a structure, I can get out of that structure by jumping out a window or something.
Mm-hmm.
I might still end up getting messed up pretty bad by jumping
Right.
out of a window, but at the same time, the good and the bad about a structure fire is if I could find a window, I could get out. The bad thing
Mm-hmm.
about a structure is it could be a trap. You can't get out
Mm-hmm.
because you're inside something and you can't figure out how to get out. So there's the good and bad as far as a structure fire is concerned, and as far as in my opinion, and I don't have any experience with forest fires, but um, they're massive. They create their own weather system, which is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. That's amazing. So I don't think the forest fires is something I would want to do. A lot of that
Mm-hmm.
job is not really throwing water. It's digging trenches in the ground, trying to cut that fire off and keep it from spreading.
Mm-hmm.
So
So, I assume that when firefighters are fighting a forest fire, and they're pretty much out there day and night, no breaks. And I know I've asked you this before. Uh, should the community be coming out to like bring you guys water or
right.
food? Because sometimes we don't really think about that part, that you
Hmm.
guys are out there fighting a fire,
Hmm.
like what it could be like what 4 days or more,
Well,
and you
if
guys
it's a
aren't really getting a break,
right, if
right?
it's a forest fire, those guys are out there. They could be out there up to a month or more.
Okay.
Typically with us, depending on the structure and how big it is, we could be
Uh-huh.
on a fire anywhere from 45 minutes to 3 or 4 days out there, fighting a fire, which is still a
Okay.
extreme. Anything more than 45 minutes is strenuous because you're working hard. I mean, you're really, really working hard. But as far as the public, bringing us snacks and that's a wonderful idea. But I would say, there usually is an area where you could probably bring those things. It would
Uh-huh.
never be one of those situations where you could walk right up to us and give us a water or something. Because if you could
Right.
do that,
Exactly.
that means you're way too close to danger.
Exactly. Right,
So
right. So there's
there's
always
usually
like, I guess, I gotta get my charger. So there's always like a point where people can actually come and drop off stuff for the firefighters, correct?
sure. I'm not sure how other fire departments work, but we have what's called
Uh-huh.
a let me get this right.
I
A,
gotta get my charger.
okay. The what is it called? The rehab service unit. It's called the
Okay.
RSU, and
Uh-huh.
they're usually parked a little bit of ways away from the fire, and they usually provide any and everything that we need. Those guys are amazing.
Okay.
But if someone, I would believe if somebody wanted to drop water and other things off, they could go walk up to the RSU person and give that stuff to them, for
Okay.
us. Yeah.
So, what was the longest time you've ever had to fight a fire, like the whole time frame? How long were you actually fighting a fire?
Well, let me see. Our shifts are 24 hours, so it would
Okay.
have been. Let me see. That fire probably came out at about. See, I worked a trade time, so I'm a
Uh-huh.
B shifter. We have three shifts: the A shift, the B shift, and the C shift. And
Okay.
I'm a B shifter. So
Okay.
I worked a trade time, so I was actually working the A shift, and I think that fire came out at about 3 in the morning,
Uh-huh.
and we didn't get off of that fire, or I didn't get off of that fire um, until about 1:30 on the B shift. So I worked
So that
almost 24 hours. No, no,
wow.
not almost 24. That would have been what's that? From 3 a.m. to 1 p.m., 1:30. So right up under 12 hours, about 10 hours I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many breaks do you guys actually get, or is it just fighting that fire the whole time? Where was that fire at?
Well, it was a big old apartment fire, and it was an old structure. The old structures burn forever. They've been rehabbed, several times, and there's a lot of void spaces where fires get. And no matter
Mm-hmm.
how much water you throw, if you don't find that void space, you'll never put that fire out. It'll just continue to grow on you.
Okay.
Um, so we were there just tearing this thing apart. You tear it apart in the inside looking for this fire while the fire's constantly growing. Then they have to
Mm-hmm.
pull us out because the conditions would get too bad.
Mm-hmm.
You set up the big water towers and you put water on it, and then you go back in and try to figure out where it's at. It was just a lot of um, going back and forth with that. But as far as breaks are concerned, pretty much they have a medical sector that'll kind of monitor us, keep an eye on us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's usually when you need a break.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, depending on how many bottles of air that you've gone through, can determine when you've been on break. If you're starting to really, really tire, then you want to maybe think about not going back in. And you may have somebody from the medical sector saying, nah, time for you to take a break because you don't want to go in there. Something happens and you're too tired to get yourself out, or you're too tired to get somebody else out. So,
Okay.
and that
It,
definitely comes with um, maturity. That's when common sense and maturity kind of starts, to work together.
mm-hmm. So when you do that, you're taking a break for what, an hour, 2 hours?
No, probably just enough to kind of catch your breath and get a
Okay.
drink of water, grab a snack, and that depends on how big the fire is. If it's a big fire and y'all are going to be there for a while, then you take a longer
Mm-hmm.
break. If it's
Okay.
not as big of a fire and you just need to catch your breath, come out and get back in there.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that you want to tell the public about your experiences as a firefighter? Like anything I didn't cover?
Um, oh boy, that's funny you asked that. I actually put a post out probably a week ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I was going to get the response from the post that I put, but it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like some friendly advice, and
Mm-hmm.
we were just having a really crazy day at work,
Mm-hmm.
and the post that I put was, if firefighters and EMS crews come out to your home to help you or to help one of your family members, you probably remember this post.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
Like, don't be
Um,
trying to help.
well, anything that we need from you, we're gonna ask. Any type of medical history, all of that stuff, we're gonna ask. But we've done this. Depending on how much time we've done on the job, we've been
Mhm.
in these situations thousands of times. We got it.
Right.
We know what we're doing, not just from experience, but we're training every single day in every aspect of our job. So we know our job better than you.
Right, right. So
You
tell
know,
me some of the
it doesn't
what are
happen
some
all the
of
time, but this particular day, it just seemed like everybody we ran on, we were running into this problem. And I guess what people don't realize is, even though you're trying to help,
the
um,
right.
if you get to telling guys what to do, or you're in the way and you're actually
Mhm.
hurting us helping whoever it is we're there to help.
Right.
So it's like, we'll ask certain things that seem silly, but there's definitely a method to the madness. We know exactly what we're doing because we've done it. So I guess I would say, let us do our job.
Right.
And just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that it's not relevant,
Right.
So our
So
job, our
so
job, when we're not working, we're resting because we never
Mhm.
know. We never know. Like a lot of people walk into the firehouse and they see guys sitting in chairs or, relaxing and eating. And it's like, trust me, we take every opportunity that we can to relax because you never know what the day is going to throw at you. Um, and it gets crazy. You know, when we're relaxing, we're relaxing. But when it's time to go to work, one of the reasons why we have this job and a lot of people don't have this job is because we're exposed to stuff that's even hard to talk about, hard to describe. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to put into words the impact that it has on you, emotionally, physically. It's rough. It could
Mm-hmm.
really be rough. So yeah, when we get the chance to relax and goof off and play around, we take every opportunity because there has to be some kind of balance for whatever it is we're going to get into,
Mm-hmm.
that day. So
So, I'm just curious, like, if you're going to someone's home, what kind of like questions or stuff do people be like throwing at you guys when you're trying to like save a life or
okay,
someone may
so
have had a heart attack? What do they be
you know,
saying?
well, say for instance, if we go into someone's home, and the first
Mm-hmm.
thing we want to do, honestly, is not talk to the relative. We want to talk to the patient because
Okay.
we need to assess, what is this person's level of consciousness like? Can this
Right.
person talk? Can they talk for themselves? Because if they can't
Mm-hmm.
talk for themselves, then you know, we're already in a serious kind of situation because they can't even talk for themselves. Once we know
Right.
they can't talk for themselves, then there's pertinent questions that we're going to be asking based on whatever information dispatch gave us. Run down their
Okay.
medical history. How are they acting today? When was the last time they were acting normal? The way they're acting now, is it completely unnormal? What kind of medications that they're on? Because a lot of times you're asked a
Oh,
person.
my phone cut off. Oh my God.
Uh-oh.